I'd been caged too long to care about the risk. 2 hours of careful transformation had built the stranger staring back at me in the mirror, flawless hair, painted lips, legs that seemed to go on forever. She wanted out. One breath to steady the tremor in my chest, one turn of the doorknob, and I was outside, sliding into the driver's seat before doubt could grab me. I'd never looked more like the woman I dreamed of being, never felt more exposed. The night air curled over my bare legs, and instead of fear, a dangerous thrill began to take its place. As I eased out of the subdivision, I noticed plenty of familiar faces out and about. But since the reflection in the mirror barely resembled the boy they knew, I told myself I'd be fine. Foolish thinking. I'm Ethan just into my teens, 5'7", slender, with brown hair brushing my shoulders and ears pierced like most of my friends. They obsess over cars, girls, and bragging rights. Me? I crave skirts and blouses, dresses and heels, makeup and sheer stockings. My secret. One that no one, not even my father, could ever know. The farther I drove, the lighter I felt. I rolled down the window, letting the wind tangle my hair, my polished nails glinting on the wheel. No real destination, just the thrill of being out. But the minutes slipped by faster than I'd realized, and with a jolt, I remembered Dad would be home by the time I got back. Changing was impossible. I had no spare clothes, and the perfume clinging to me would betray me instantly. Turning around, I tried to invent excuses. Not one sounded believable, not even to me. My heart sank as I pulled onto our street. And there she was, washing her car in the driveway. No way to sneak in. I'd have to park in plain view and walk right past her, past anyone who might be watching. I wasn't dressed outrageously, but I was far from blending in. A fitted, sleeveless dark green mini dress that bared my legs from mid-thigh down, short black heels, hair styled in a neat page boy, earrings swaying, lips coated in glossy red. And that unmistakable perfume. I had 10 seconds to decide, though really, there was no choice. Pulling up, I saw her puzzled glance at my car, her brow furrowing when she couldn't place me. I opened the door, swung my legs out carefully, slipped my purse onto my shoulder, and walked toward her. My back was slick with sweat, my stomach knotted, but I kept my stride steady. "Hi," she said, still not connecting the dots. Then recognition hit, and her eyes widened. I tried to pass by, but her hand caught my arm. "Don't change," she said evenly. "I'll be right in." So much for secrecy. Embarrassed but oddly proud that she hadn't recognized me right away, I went inside, touched up my lipstick, and decided if I was going to be doomed, I might as well look my best. Through the window, I saw our neighbor approach her, gesturing toward my car and the house. She said something, shrugged, and she walked away. Moments later, the door opened. "Melissa wanted to know who the girl was driving your car," she said, stopping a few feet away. "She needs a babysitter tonight. I told her I'd ask if you were interested." Then, with a motion of her hand, she had me turn slowly in place. "You look a lot like your mother." We sat across from each other, tension buzzing between us. "Those aren't your mother's clothes. You bought them. Care to explain?" I just thought I'd try it, that's all." "That won't do, Ethan, and you know it. Tell me the truth. If this was just an experiment, you wouldn't have shaved your arms, worn perfume, or patted your chest." "So?" I wanted to say nothing wanted to be anywhere else. But the truth pressed out, haltingly. "I've tried it before, a few times. When Mom was home, it's not bad. I like it." "You guess?" Her voice was sharp but not cruel. "No, I think you like it more than that. Enough to keep doing it. Enough to buy your own clothes." Dad leaned back, studying me with that unreadable half-smile. "Maybe I should make you take that babysitting job tonight." "Ah, Dad!" "Why not? It's easy work, and I'll bet you could use the money. Besides, you just said you liked dressing as a girl. This is perfect. You get to be a girl and get paid for it." "Do I have to?" "No. I told Melissa I'd ask. If you can do it, give her a call. She paused just long enough for me to think I'd gotten out of it, then hit me with the next blow. Tomorrow I've got an all-day meeting downtown. I know you were looking forward to having the day free, and now I know why. Here's the deal, you still get your day, but since we both know what you'd be doing, I'll just take you with me. As a girl, of course. Meet people, do some shopping, and I'll know you're not getting into trouble. Think of it as a learning experience. Oh, Dad! What if If you look tomorrow like you do now, there won't be a problem. Since you want to dress this way, I'll give you the chance. Maybe it'll knock some sense into you. We locked eyes, two stubborn wills testing each other. She didn't understand what drove me, and truth be told, I didn't fully understand it either. Then she cut away the last of my choices. Shall I tell Melissa you'll be over? She gave me room to refuse, but the unspoken deal was clear. Say no now, and spend tomorrow under her watch, fully dressed, in public. Pride wouldn't let me back down. I nodded. Stupidest decision of my life. By the way, she added casually, what name should I give her? Melissa knew me well. I'd mowed her lawn for years. The idea of her recognizing me churned my stomach, but Dad wasn't in the mood for a debate. Swallowing hard, I said, Haley. She called, arranged the time, and hung up with a satisfied air. Not wanting anything that might tip her off, I decided against jeans or slacks and busied myself in the kitchen making sandwiches. Dad, buried in phone calls, didn't look up when I set her plate down. I dreaded walking over there as much as I dreaded her seeing me like this again. Morning was still negotiable, maybe, but tonight was locked in. Melissa was expecting Haley, and that was who she'd get. Upstairs, I peeled off the now sweaty dress, washed up, and changed into my only other outfit: skirt, blouse, gym shoes. A quick touch-up of makeup, hair in place, perfume still lingering. I tossed the dress into the washer, glanced at the clock, and headed down. Dad just waved me off as I passed her office. Purse in hand, I opened the front door, stepped into the night, and walked next door. Melissa greeted me almost immediately, giving me only a cursory look before plunging into a flurry of pre-departure instructions. Phone numbers, TV remote, approved snacks, bedtime guidelines. A quick hug, and she was gone. Her daughters, 3 and 5, were bundles of restless energy. Games, giggles, storybooks, until they finally collapsed into sleep. I exhaled, sinking into the sofa. When Melissa returned near 11, she paid me, and just as I reached for the door, she stopped me. I saw you leave this afternoon, she said softly, but I didn't tell your father. You look very nice, by the way. If you ever need someone to talk to, call me. Yes, ma'am. I will, but you probably won't see me again. Why don't I believe you, Haley? You're as cute as can be, and you know it. So does your dad. I can only imagine her face when she saw you earlier. Yeah. Well, thanks. I need to go. Remember if you need to talk. I will. Thanks. Back home, I tossed the dress into the dryer and went to my room. The house was still, the quiet almost oppressive. Stripping down, I caught my reflection, bare skin framed by styled hair, makeup intact, earrings swaying faintly, the scent of perfume still clinging. I thought about tomorrow. Saying no was still possible, but Dad's stubbornness matched my own. She had been unyielding when Mom's illness consumed her, refusing to let anyone else take her in until the very end. We'd cared for her together, just the two of us, until it was impossible. That was 2 years ago. Now she was gone in all but body, locked away, her mind unreachable. That time had fused us together, father and son, partners in endurance. And now, in one afternoon, I'd cracked that bond wide open. I couldn't resist this pull inside me, even knowing the cost. Standing there in the dim light, I felt it, the inexplicable, magnetic draw toward this version of myself. And with it, the weight of knowing there was no going back. I kept telling myself I didn't want this, but inside, I ached for something I could never truly have: to be a girl. Morning brought the inevitable choice: obey Dad and be the daughter she saw, or refuse and brace for the fallout. She had her choice too: accept my no or force the issue. And since she paid the bills, I knew which way that coin would land. Playing out the scenarios was pointless. There was no safe path, only the one leading to the next hour. When I came downstairs, she didn't waste time. Get dressed and look as good as you did yesterday. I opened my mouth to argue, but she raised a hand, cutting me off. You're conflicted. I'm not. You will get dressed, just as I said, because my daughter Haley is coming with me today. Final answer. You have 90 minutes. That was Dad unyielding steel under a calm voice. My planned rebellion dissolved in a long, resigned sigh. Upstairs, I went through the now familiar ritual, and when I reappeared, Haley was back. Dad opened the door, ushered me out, and we drove in silence to her downtown office. Sitting beside her, I tried to guess her endgame. She wouldn't humiliate me, not in public, but I had no idea what else she had planned. In a building likely filled with women of all ages, maybe even some who knew me, every movement would have to be perfect. She said nothing the entire drive, and I didn't dare break the silence. My heels echoed on the marble as we crossed the lobby to the elevator. Just as the doors slid shut, a woman stepped in. I knew her. Karen, one of Dad's co-workers. Morning, Karen. This is Haley, Dad said easily. Thought she might want to see our operations today. Karen's smile was warm. Hi, Haley. If you get lost, just ask anyone. Before I could reply, the elevator opened and Dad steered me down the hall. I'm not going to put you into anything that embarrasses either of us, she said. But if you want to dress like this, we'll do it my way. If you handle today well, maybe I can get you a job here filing, something light. Would you like to try that? What? No way! Dressing like this once in a while is one thing, but every day? I'd have to get up hours earlier just to look decent, and I don't even have the clothes for it. Absolutely not. Don't decide yet. Look around first. I stopped, gripping her arm. Dad, you don't get it. This takes work. I'd have to. Forget it. The answer's no. She didn't push further. Inside her office, she introduced me simply as Haley, never adding my daughter. Then she told me to wander, meet her at noon, and vanished into a conference room. Alone, I felt every eye on me. Instinct said, move, keep from becoming a fixed target. So I drifted down the hall, peeking into open offices, conscious of every step, every gesture. I was so focused on my act that I didn't notice her until a hand touched my arm. I turned. Brittany, a classmate. Her eyes widened. Call me Haley, I cut in, already resigned. If I was going down, I'd go with some style. Okay. Haley, why are you dressed like that? Dad's idea. Said it'd be a learning experience. She was right. What gave me away? Nothing. I almost didn't connect it. Then I saw your eyes. That's when I knew. Don't worry, I won't tell. Who'd believe me? You've got better legs than most girls I know, and with that face, you look like some kind of wide-eyed angel. Seriously, get over the secrecy. You look amazing. Yeah, but when the guys see me, they'll trip over themselves trying to get to you. Face it, you've got it, and they'll want it. So why'd your dad bring you? She wants me to get a job here. I told her no way. Too bad. We'd have some fun. We walked together until we reached my meeting spot. Dad was already there. I introduced them, and then she and I headed to lunch. It wasn't until we were seated in a quiet booth at the back that she finally spoke. Her gaze was heavy, her expression unreadable, but edged with a frown. You surprised me, Dad began, lifting her hand when I tried to speak. Yesterday, I'll admit I was shocked. Never thought I'd see my own son in a dress. And there you were, all put together. And the worst part? You looked beautiful. Then, when I asked you about it, all I got were half-truths. until I pressed you into admitting what I'd already guessed you like it. You've always had the chance to talk to us, even refuse things, as long as there was a good reason. So when Melissa asked for a babysitter, all you had to do was shower, change, and walk over. Instead, you changed into a skirt and blouse. You must have wanted to do anything else, but you didn't. You knew I wouldn't hurt you, wouldn't force you into something stupid, and yet you stayed dressed. Then, when I told you you'd be coming with me today like this, you gave me barely a fight. You're as stubborn as I am, and you know I wouldn't have pushed if you'd stood your ground. But you didn't. You just went to your room, got ready, and came out like this. If I'd let that slide, what would that make me? I'm your father. My job is to teach you responsibility, not let you make the rules. Her words landed heavy, pulling at something deep inside. She wasn't angry, just disappointed. And that hurt more. Disappointed that I hadn't been able to tell her outright that I liked dressing this way, and equally that I hadn't had the courage to refuse her. The truth was, I hadn't wanted to. In chasing that feeling, I'd let go of my usual defiance and just obeyed. Dad and I had become partners in many ways after Mom went away, but she was still in charge, and I'd always known it. When she told me to stay dressed, I could have done what she said, gone to my room, cleaned up, faced her on my terms. But I didn't. I'd caved. Even this morning, I'd gone along without much fuss. Why? I didn't know. Maybe strange as it sounded, I felt safe with her. So, she said evenly, what do we do now? I had no answer, and she knew it. That girl, Brittany, she knows you? I nodded. I'll say this again, she went on. I never expected to see my son in a dress, and I'm not thrilled about it. But I'm not stupid either. I've read about boys like you, and everything says you probably won't stop, no matter what I do. She paused, studying me. You've been out in public now, and a friend's seen you. Is there any reason for me to believe you'll quit? I didn't answer. I didn't need to, my silence told her everything. All right then, she said at last. If you're going to keep doing this, probably more than once in a while, I'm making you a proposition. There are times when I need a female companion at conferences, dinners Rick drags me to, and I'm tired of her trying to set me up with women who see me as nothing more than a meal ticket. Her eyes locked on mine. I want the truth. Is this just a sometimes thing? Or if I let you, would you dress like this all the time? No matter what the answer is, tell me the truth. It was the question I'd always thought I wanted to hear. In my daydreams, the answer had been instant yes, always. But now, with it laid bare between us, the words tangled in my throat. The silence grew thick, pressing in from all sides. If you had what you needed, she asked quietly, could you be a young woman, convincingly enough to be my companion and pull it off? I stared at her, stunned. What I'm asking, she clarified, is if I help you, could you fill in for your mother when it's needed? Dad, I'm not sure I can. Answer me, Ethan. If you had the chance, would you dress as a girl all the time? And then it hit me full force. Every memory, every rush of slipping into a dress, the scent of perfume, the feel of nylons hugging my legs, the faint weight of my padded chest, all of it crashed together. I looked at her, knowing this would shatter whatever image of me she'd been holding on to. I want to be a girl, Dad, I said, my voice almost breaking. And I always have. She didn't flinch. Then maybe, if I can't help you myself, Melissa can. This is going to be hard, I murmured. And expensive. I barely have any clothes, and I'll need a lot more than that. Dad just nodded, silent but steady. Her calm made it worse. It meant she wasn't bluffing. If I went through with this, I'd have to be flawless. No mistakes, not one. My walk, my gestures, my figure, even my voice, every detail would have to pass without question. It hit me then. The day she'd caught me had been my very first time going all out, my first time stepping beyond the safety of my room and my car. Melissa hadn't seemed fazed when I showed up to babysit. But in her office this morning, I'd clung to every ounce of focus I had just to keep the act believable. And now Dad was talking about dropping me into situations I wasn't ready for, in front of people I couldn't hide from. I was on the verge of taking it all back, telling her no, shoving this whole episode into a dark corner, when Melissa appeared at our booth. "Hi there," she said, sliding in beside me with a smile. "I was shopping, stopped in for lunch, thought I saw you back here. And don't worry, the kids are with their dad today." My voice caught. "Hi." "Haley and I," Dad said, "were just discussing a mutual problem and your name came up." "Oh?" Everyone at this table knows what's going on, so I'll be direct. She's admitted she wants to be a girl, and always has. I don't understand it, but I'm willing to try to handle it. I've asked Haley to be my companion for certain events, but she's unsure she can. It's a lot to ask. I thought maybe we could both get what we need and work past our concerns. Melissa's expression turned thoughtful. "That's a tall order. How soon?" "Rick's dinner party. End of next month, 6 weeks." She glanced at me, then at her. "Haley and I need to talk." Dad agreed, saying she'd take me home. Once she left, she got right to it. She didn't think a dinner party would be that difficult for me, so long as I erased what she called doubt. Well-fitted dresses, a good figure, polished manners, the kind of grace that let men feel in charge. She was blunt. The only way to pull it off convincingly was to live full-time as a girl. I didn't argue. I'd already told Dad that's what I wanted. When I asked why she and Dad didn't, "Your father and I have history," she said simply. "I've got an ex-husband and kids. Your mother's still alive. You know your dad, she's honorable. She wouldn't cross that line. Besides, we're just friends now. What she really needs isn't what she says. Maybe she doesn't even realize it. Most men don't." She leaned in. "What your father needs is someone to look after Haley. You've grown independent, leaned on her less. As a young woman, you'd have no choice but to rely on her again. Boys asking you out. Flat tire on the roadside. Sure, you could change it, but would you want to? In a short skirt and long nails? No? You'd call her. But what if... There are no ifs, Haley. You can or you can't. I think you can once you stop clinging to this idea of being a strong male. Accept yourself as female, and everything gets easier. But Dad will think less of me, I said, my throat tightening. She told me she was shocked. I'll bet it was more how you looked than what you were wearing. She may not like the dresses, but she's accepted them. Which brings us to the question, are you willing to take the next step? Let your father and me help you become the girl I see? Or will you crawl back into yourself and spend your life wondering if you could have been her? Her words hit hard. I wanted to retreat, to bury it all, but the thought of closing that door forever felt worse. I nodded. From there, she asked everything: how I shaped my hips, towels, what I used for curves, makeup, hair. I answered honestly. Before I knew it, the afternoon was gone. Driving me home, Melissa said, "We'll need to find a style that's yours and build toward it." I didn't know what Melissa had planned, but I accepted the obvious. She knew more about being a woman than I ever could. Back home, the house was empty. I set the table and started dinner. Nothing unusual, I cooked often. Dad came in, greeted me, and joined me at the table. She didn't bring up our earlier conversation, but I knew this was my moment to lay down terms. I told her plainly I'd do it, be what she wanted me to be, but she'd have to fund everything I needed. Clothes, shoes, cosmetics, it wouldn't be cheap. She agreed without hesitation, even handed me her credit card and promised to get me one of my own. "Don't go crazy," she said. That was it. No lecture, no debate. Though I did catch her watching me carry dishes to the sink, something unreadable in her eyes. While she watched TV, I retreated to my room, making 2 lists: what I absolutely needed and what I dreamed of having. Both grew fast. When Brittany called at 9, I begged off, saying I had too much to do. That night, in bed, I imagined myself as a sleek, long-legged redhead in a knockout dress until the image shattered. replaced by the reality of my own naked body. Melissa had promised to help me, but I had no idea how far this would go, or if I could pull it off. Jake and Ryan would never understand. When I'd mentioned that to Melissa, she'd just laughed. Easy for her to say. The next morning, I waited until after breakfast to call her. Kids' noise filled the background as she told me to wear a skirt and blouse and be ready in an hour. Dressed and purse in hand, I stepped outside just in time for Jake to drive past. Perfect. Melissa let me in. We packed her kids into the van and dropped them at her mother's. On the way, I read her my list. She stopped me halfway, shaking her head. "We're going to see a specialist. Stop worrying." We weren't headed to the mall, that much I knew. She finally pulled up in front of an office building. "My cousin Tiffany works here. I called her last night, she said to bring you." I followed her inside, nerves tight. The first person I saw looked like she'd stepped out of a biker gang nearly 6 feet, broad as the desk, a scar across her face, bald head, and a stare that made me want to keep moving. She led us back, and there she was. "Hi, Melissa. This is the girl you mentioned?" Tiffany looked every bit the woman until she spoke. The voice was pure male. My expression made her laugh. "Honey, I'm a guy, just like you. I dress like this because I want to, and I don't care what people think. Now let me have a look at you." She circled me slowly, her gaze sharp. Small B cup, maybe 2 inches more in the rear, an inch or so on the hips, and that waist will need to take off about 3 inches. With her perfect cleavage, flawless skin, and balanced curves, I assumed she had contacts to make what I'd need. I was wrong. She made them herself. "Strip down to your panties," she said. I shot a look at Melissa. She smiled, told me she'd be back in a few hours, and left me to it. Tiffany watched as I undressed, then pointed me to a small circular platform. "That's enough for now. Stand still." The platform rotated, a thin red light scanning me inch by inch. It took nearly half an hour before I was handed a robe. "I make prosthetic devices for films," she explained, "but as a sideline, I help special girls like you become exactly who they want to be." At her computer, she selected pieces from a catalog: hips, bust, waist, assembling them like puzzle parts. When she turned the screen toward me, I saw myself transformed into a 36, 24, 36 silhouette, small B cup, the proportions smooth and natural. Then she added one more detail. My breath caught. I nodded without hesitation. "For this, I'll need a few more measurements," she said. "Remove your panties." What followed was surreal. I placed myself on a small table while the red light scanned again, Tiffany moving with quiet precision. 10 minutes later, she took meticulous color samples from different points on my skin, entered them into the file, and ran the program again. It took nearly an hour, each piece crafted separately with Tiffany's precision, and when I finally saw them, they were so lifelike it was unsettling. Under her watchful eye, I started with the panty. For the first time, I was completely naked in front of her, close enough to feel her breath. The garment looked like a long-legged girdle, but in my exact skin tone. No adhesive. Tiffany had designed it to fit so tightly it would hold itself in place. She rolled it almost inside out, guided my feet through, then yanked it upward until it rested just below my hips. "This part's tricky," she said. "Push everything inside, then fit that into here while I pull it up. Ready?" I nodded, pressing myself into the small hidden pouch as she tugged the panty into place. In seconds, it was done. The mirror reflected something I couldn't reconcile. My lower half now belonged to a girl. Even my thighs had a softer curve. Next came a narrow waist cincher, and together we pulled it up until it met the panty seamlessly. My waist was now a perfect 24 inches, complete with a subtle belly button. The breast forms followed smooth, weighty, secured with a thin adhesive. By the time Tiffany was finished, I was staring at the body of a naked girl my age, the illusion flawless. Then came the detailing. I lay on the table as she fitted hair to the panty with delicate precision, every placement exact. An hour later, she helped me into a bra, awkward at first, navigating around my new curves, and then into my blouse and skirt. Everything hugged differently now: the weight of my chest, the plush curve of my hips, the heavier swing of my legs. I was buzzing inside, almost dizzy with the feeling. When I handed over Dad's credit card, the number made me flinch, but the result was worth every penny. Melissa returned 20 minutes later, grinning as she looked me over. On the drive, she talked about Tiffany, how she'd been dressing since they were kids, even going to prom as a girl, and how her skill in making prosthetics for the stage and film meant she was among the best in the country. "That's why I wasn't as shocked as you expected when I first saw you," Melissa said. "Where are we going now?" I asked. "My salon," she said. "Hair first, maybe nails. Waxing your hands and arms, cleaning up your brows. You can skip anything you're not comfortable with." But now, after seeing myself like this, there was no way I was skipping anything. Every dream I'd had was inching into reality. Yes, part of me knew I could strip off the forms, throw on boy clothes, and no one would ever know. But if I had my nails done, there'd be no going back, not quickly anyway. And I wanted to go all out. Dad noticed the changes that evening, but stayed silent. We spent the night in companionable quiet, and in the morning, I slipped into the same skirt and blouse, ate breakfast, and headed back to Melissa's. With her kids away, we left immediately. The salon swallowed 2 hours and another generous chunk of Dad's credit. My mouse brown hair was washed, curled, set, trimmed, clipped, and against my wish for red, dyed a rich auburn to suit my skin tone. My nails were filed, extended, painted a soft plum. My arms, hands, and brows were waxed smooth before my makeup was redone from scratch. By the time I left, I wasn't just altered, I was remade. Walking out into the daylight, I felt like someone had switched on a part of me that had always been dim, complete, whole. Melissa smiled knowingly as we drove. "So, what are you going to tell your father?" "That I've decided to do what she asked, of course." "I mean, about what Tiffany made for you." "Does she have to know?" She gave me a look. "Haley, how long do you think before she notices those boobs? You two have been just guys in the same house for years you don't exactly knock. What happens if she walks in while you're showering? Or the first time you leave the toilet seat down?" "Believe me, it'll happen," Melissa said, "and she'll want to know why you're nagging her." She smiled knowingly. "And then there'll be those mornings when you're in just panties and a robe at breakfast. I could go on, honey. I wouldn't tell her everything, but I'd make it clear the rules of the house have changed. Casually mention that you look like a girl all over, she'll get the point." She made it sound simple, but I knew better. In the salon, I'd been soaring. Now, parked in her driveway, the old ache of shame had crept back in. Melissa gave my hand a pat, and I stepped out, walking to my house with a knot in my stomach. I opened the door, hoping for an empty room, but Dad was right there. She turned, stood, and stared at me, her mouth open. Her eyes moved from my freshly styled hair and makeup to my long nails, then down to my curves. In that moment, I was all girl, inside and out. I half thought about bolting, but then she smiled and held out her hand. I let her take it, let her look me over. I spent a lot of money today, Dad. A lot." "I'll bet," she said. "It shows. Is this what you wanted?" The mix of fear, joy, and relief surged so fast it spilled out. "Oh, Dad, you have no idea. I've always wanted to be a girl, and now I am." The words felt dangerous the second they left my mouth. "I can see that. But if you spent that much, where are the clothes?" "Tomorrow. Today was other things." "Like what?" Melissa's advice rang in my ears. This was my moment to set terms. "I went to see a specialist yesterday. She made some items for me." "What kind of items?" Her voice had an edge now. "She used a laser." I told her everything about Tiffany, how she'd crafted the forms. how I looked like a girl all over, letting that last word hang. I left out the details about the panty's inner workings. She didn't need to know that. When I told her the total, all she said was, "Damn." But she listened to my new house rules and agreed without fuss. Then came her turn. If I wanted more, I'd have to start working. She'd get me an application, and tomorrow I'd have a spending limit. Grinning to myself later, I went to my room to see the new me again. I undressed slowly, teasing my own reflection. And when I was bare, the illusion was perfect. A young woman stared back. The skin felt real, even warm under my touch. I let my fingers wander over the curves, slipping one beneath the panty's surface, feeling the uncanny realism. For a fleeting second, I imagined someone else's hand there, a boy's, and the thought startled me. I'd never been drawn to guys. But Melissa's voice echoed, "Boys will ask you out." Brittany's voice followed close behind. "You look fantastic, why hide it?" I pulled on panties, bra, a tee, then slid into jeans. They fit differently, now soft curves in front, snug stretch across my backside. Sneakers on, I headed downstairs. Dad just waved as I opened the front door straight into Jake, who nearly fell inside. "Hi there, is Ethan here?" In my best feminine tone. "Ethan's gone. She'll be away for a long time." Jake didn't flinch. "Well then, I'm Jake. What's your name?" "Haley, and I have to go now." "Sure, honey, but I'll be back. Count on it." Oh, I counted on it. Jake had a reputation for pestering girls, and now I was on her radar. At Melissa's, her little one, Sophie, clung to my leg until I scooped her up. "Practicing?" Melissa teased. "No, just letting you know I made the rules." Dad agreed without a fuss. I settled into a chair with Sophie in my lap. But I don't think she's entirely comfortable, especially after I told her what we did today. I said if she ever saw me naked, she wouldn't think I was a boy in any way. That shook her. She also said I need to start working if I want all the extras. She's letting me shop tomorrow, but there's a spending cap. "We'll manage, Haley," Melissa said. Sophie hopped down and darted toward her room, the sound of playful voices following. "She likes you," Melissa added. "Maybe spending time as a woman will teach you something clothes alone aren't enough. You'll need to become a woman in every sense, which means learning how to handle men, especially boys your age. Can you do that?" "Oh, I can cope," I said lightly. "I just don't think anything will happen, that's all." Melissa shook her head. "Don't be silly. Of course you'll have to deal with boys. There are the ones who only go for the perfect blonde types, always fluttering around them, hoping for trouble. Then there's the majority the guys who just want someone they're attracted to, but who has a level head. Plenty of those girls aren't classic beauties, but they've got a quality. And you, well, you're pretty, but you don't believe it because you've never felt what a man's pull on a woman can be." "But I'm not. I mean, I never." "Been attracted to boys? Maybe not. But they have their uses. If you learn how to work with them, the world opens up. Give in a little just enough and you'll see. Let them kiss you. Let them think they've won. Trust me, you'll understand once it happens." "I hope so," I murmured, just as Sophie returned clutching a book. I read to her, then headed home. The next day, Melissa and I skipped the mall and went to a discount store stocking up on basics first. Bras, panties, pantyhose, then shoes, skirts, blouses, dresses, nightgowns, jeans, even 2 suits. I added a curling iron, blow dryer, and the exact makeup from the salon. On the way back, we stopped at a furniture store where I found a small vanity and put it on layaway. By the time Dad came home, everything was tucked away in my room. I'd changed into new jeans and a pink pullover, and for the first time in days, I took my car into the driveway and started washing it free to be outside in girl mode without fear of being caught. Jake and Ryan drove by, then backed up when they spotted me. Jake was her usual obnoxious self, closing in and actually touching me. Without thinking, I turned the hose on her. She sputtered, dripping and swearing, until Ryan told her to go cool off. Ryan stayed, moving closer. Jake says your name's Haley? I nodded. Where's Ethan? Jake said you told her Ethan would be gone for a while. She's away. Busy finding himself, I said, which was technically true. I see. You living here with her dad now? For a while. Why? No reason. Just wondering. I might ask you out sometime, figured I should know where you live. And you're assuming I'd say yes? Her smile widened. Of course. How could you refuse me after meeting Jake? Easy, I shot back. I open my mouth and say it. But would you? What? I teased, knowing exactly what she meant. Go out with me? Maybe. I'm not sure yet. Well, can I call you later? I nodded, watching her walk away, glancing back once before disappearing around the corner. My first real encounter with Ryan, and she'd basically asked me out. I finished the car, then cleaned the inside, tossing out the junk that screamed, "Boy's car." By the time I was done, I was soaked, so I went inside. The answering machine light was blinking. It was Brittany, wanting to hang out. She suggested the mall and later the teen club. I called her back, said I'd go, and offered to drive. After making arrangements, I went to my room to change. I figured she'd dress casually, but club appropriate, so I chose a tan and white checked skirt with a white pullover top, stripped, and headed for the shower. Tiffany's voice was in my head: wash thoroughly, shave carefully. I still hated shaving, but it was manageable. Getting dressed afterward was bliss. My hair, just brushed, fell into place exactly as the stylist had promised. The white lace demi-cup bra and matching panties felt like second skin, no more awkward padding. Pantyhose slid on smoothly, making my legs look perfect. I finished my makeup, pulled on the skirt, slipped the top over my head, and stepped into short heels. Earrings, a thin necklace, my new watch, a light mist of perfume, then a swipe of lipstick, and I was ready. The mirror gave me a final check. The skirt, mid-thigh like so many other girls wore, showed off my legs exactly as I'd hoped. Just below my waist was that subtle, natural curve that belonged there now. My breasts pressed against the thin fabric of my top, the outline of my bra faint but visible. Smiling, I left my room. Dad had just come home. The moment she saw me, hairstyled, makeup flawless, her eyebrows went up. Wow! You look better than ever. Going out? Thanks, Dad. I'm going to the mall with Brittany, then the club on Main Street. Okay, but be home by midnight. What? I usually get to stay out until 1. Boys don't have the same problems girls do, Haley. Girls need a reasonable hour. Midnight, or you stay home. Dad! Midnight, she said, final. Arguing would only make it worse, so I nodded. Dad was beginning to see me as a girl, and with that came rules I'd never had before. Part of me liked it. It meant she was accepting this. The other part dreaded finding out what else, being her daughter, would mean. Brittany and I wandered the mall, drifting into a high-end lingerie shop. Everything in there called to me, but one piece stopped me cold: a sheer black corselet, barely more than wisps of fabric. With a nudge from the sales clerk, I dragged Brittany into the fitting room. She was about to be the only person besides Tiffany and me to see me virtually naked. The moment my clothes hit the floor, I heard her sharp inhale. When I had the corselet on, her grin was wide. Damn, girl, you look fantastic. Care to tell me? No. And as far as you're concerned, I'm a girl and always have been. Brittany laughed. Yeah, sure. How could I say otherwise? I just saw you naked right in front of me. We slipped easily into her world the way she talked, laughed, moved, and I found myself giggling with her. It was exhilarating, even if a voice in the back of my mind whispered that I was still just a boy in a dress. Outwardly, the illusion was perfect. Inside, I knew the risk. Someone might connect Haley to Ethan, especially with me driving the same car and living in the same house. My only shield now was Brittany, who could swear truthfully that she'd seen me bare and female. By the time we headed to the club, my stomach was tight. I'd never imagined myself as a girl in a crowd of teenagers. My fantasies were solitary, just me, dressed. But now there'd be boys. Real boys. I let Brittany lead, my smile fixed to hide the nerves. The club swallowed us, pulsing bass, flashing strobes, chatter and laughter ricocheting off the walls. We hadn't even reached a table when Jake appeared at my side, arm sliding around my waist. Still smiling, I grabbed her index finger and bent it back until she let go with a sharp jerk. Brittany and I didn't stop. We wove deeper into the crowd, found a table and sat. Across the room, Jake sat nursing her finger, with Ryan, Connor, who everyone called Chad, and Tyler. Brittany was asked to dance almost immediately. Minutes later, a guy I didn't know asked me. I stumbled at first, then found my rhythm and started to enjoy it. We traded partners, dancing with several guys in turn. Then Tyler stepped up and asked me. I'd been having a great time right up until the moment I stopped worrying about being found out. But on the way out of the club, I spotted Jake with a cluster of guys I didn't know. Brittany and I quickened our pace toward the car. The last thing I wanted was a scene. No such luck. In a flash, Jake grabbed me from behind, one hand fisting my blouse like she might tear it, the other cinched around my waist, liquor heavy on her breath. Her grip was crushing, pulling me too close. Brittany cried out as one of her friends dragged her aside. I twisted, trying to get free, but Jake forced her mouth to mine. My heel came down hard on her ankle. She yelped but didn't let go. Then, suddenly, she was ripped backward like a rag doll. Chad had her by the throat, her other fist cocked high. When the punch landed, Jake's head snapped back. Chad let go, and she crumpled to the ground. The guy holding Brittany dropped her and bolted. Brittany and I stood there, breathless, adrenaline pumping, but before I could say a word, not even thank you, Chad just turned and walked away. A knot of girls rushed over. Tyler and Ryan came too, glanced at Jake on the floor, checked that I was okay, then left without comment. I hustled Brittany to the car and got us out of there fast. The drive to her house was quiet. Both of us wound tight. I could see that look in Brittany's eye. She was going to make an issue out of Jake and her wandering hands. I made her promise not to do anything that would give me away, though the look she gave me in return could have curdled milk. I didn't really exhale until I was home, but Dad saw me, saw the way I was shaking, and instantly shifted into dad mode, demanding to know what happened. It all came spilling out in a rush, the words thick with tears. Like a little girl who'd failed to protect herself, I confessed my fear and shame. Worse than telling her I wanted to be a girl was admitting I'd been helpless. When I finished, she hugged me, stroked my hair, and told me to go to bed. "I'll take care of it tomorrow," she said. I didn't ask how. That night, I lay in bed feeling hollow, replaying it over and over. Jake wasn't that much bigger than me. As Ethan, I could have fought, maybe lost, but not without making her work for it. But Haley hadn't fought. Haley had been scared. Morning came. I dressed in jeans and a top, ready for the lecture. Instead, Dad surprised me. "You've got the hair, the nails, the heels. Jake jumped you from behind. Girls can't usually stand up to guys their own age." "You know that, right?" Yes?" "Then you did the right thing. You kicked her, didn't you?" "Yes. In the ankle." "As Ethan, could you take her?" "Probably not. She's tough." "Then why would you think you could beat her in heels? Haley, you never had a chance. And honestly, this probably did more to convince everyone you're a girl than anything else." She smiled faintly. "This Chad, did she say anything?" "Not a word. Just punched Jake, made sure I was okay, and left." Dad hugged me again. "Go change. We're visiting your mother." I chose a nice skirt, blouse, and modest heels, with small earrings. Dad drove us to the sanitarium. I wasn't nervous. Mom rarely recognized us anymore. But one look at her and my heart sank. She was worse than ever, eyes sunken and red, hands swaddled in gauze mittens. She glanced at Dad, and for a heartbeat I thought I saw recognition. Then it faded. Her gaze moved to me, scanning from head to toe, and for the first time in months, her lips moved. "Pretty girl," she said softly. It startled me. I reached out, but she flinched back like a frightened animal. Moments later, she retreated into herself, her focus gone. We watched as she seemed to draw inward until there was only a shell left, a frail body with the weight of a child. Gaunt, hair brushed but lifeless, she couldn't have weighed more than 80 pounds. Leaving her behind was agony, but staying was worse. We walked out hand in hand, both knowing the end was near, and that, for her, it would be a mercy. Her illness had reduced her to crawling the floors, growling, unable to speak, except for those 2 fragile words she'd given me. The drugs kept the worst of the demons at bay, but there was no path back. By comparison, my problems, Jake, my fears, the facade I was building felt almost petty. Shame flushed through me. I had my father, Brittany, and Melissa on my side, and maybe one more ally. But when I glanced back before the door closed, I caught one last glimpse of Mom, sitting alone in the corner. I gripped Dad's hand hard. She said nothing, though I knew we were both wondering how much longer she could survive like that. We drove home in silence, stopping at a small, out-of-the-way diner for lunch. Neither of us said much until the coffee came. "Haley," Dad began slowly, "watching you these last few days, it's made me realize just how much this means to you. The way you walk, talk, carry yourself, it's all changed. Even your expressions are different. As much as I never imagined my son turning out to be my daughter, I have to admit, you've changed my mind. I always thought that if I had a daughter, she'd be just like you. I didn't trust myself to speak. So, since it's obvious you're not going back to being a boy, I guess I can accept that I have the daughter I always wanted. Let's start over. Let me be the father you think I can be, not the fool I was when you first told me about Haley." Tears blurred my vision as I took her hand. I managed, "Mom," but she shook her head gently. She wasn't asking me to replace her. She just wanted me to become the woman I said I was. It felt like I'd been climbing a steep hill in search of treasure, only to find it had been waiting for me at the start. On the way home, I mentioned the vanity I'd been eyeing. She told me I could have Mom's, along with anything in her jewelry box I could use. It was her way of admitting she wasn't coming home. When we walked in, the answering machine was blinking 17 messages. Most were from Brittany. The news was staggering. Jake had a broken jaw, her nose shoved out of place, and a sprained wrist. Her father had been making noise until the police stepped in. Several witnesses, Brittany, Ryan, Megan, even that skinny redhead told the cops what happened. But Brittany warned me that once the police got involved, my anonymity was at risk. "They'll probably be at your house before the day's over," she said. She was right. 2 young officers, a man and a woman, arrived not long after. I refused to talk without Dad there. When I told my side, the female officer leaned forward. "There's been an allegation," she said carefully, "that you're not what you appear to be." Dad's jaw tightened. "And what is my daughter supposed to be, exactly?" The male officer blurted. "It's been alleged that your daughter is your son." Her partner shot her a glare. The woman cleared her throat. "We can settle this quickly if you and I step somewhere private." Dad's voice was like steel. "And do what? Strip her?" "Yes," she admitted. "Just to confirm. If she's male, Jake's claim that she came onto her and then had her beaten would carry more weight." "With all the other witnesses?" "I doubt it," Dad shot back. Then she looked at me. "Your call, Haley. I'd tell them to take a hike." "It's okay, Dad." I motioned to the woman. "We'll use my room." 10 minutes later, we returned. I'd removed just enough to satisfy her blouse off, but bra on, skirt and hose off, but panties still in place. It was enough. They left, telling me not to worry. But I did worry. Someone had seen through my makeup, or simply never believed my story about Ethan being away while I showed up as Haley. After the door closed, Dad and I locked eyes and burst out laughing. I now had official confirmation on record that I was female. Whether or not people knew the truth, that little fact meant I could get the identification I needed to work, drive, and live as Haley. I called Brittany right away, told her to come over, and asked Dad to help me get a new driver's license. We did it the next morning without a hitch. Afterward, Dad took me to her office, where I applied for a clerk position and got it. Working as a girl was strange at first, navigating the casual gossip about men, babies, sex, and each other, but I adapted. On my third day, Melissa arrived at my door holding a bouquet of fresh flowers. The card read only, "For the prettiest girl I ever met." No signature. I had no idea who sent them. Brittany swore she didn't know, but the sparkle in her eye made me wonder. Dad, of course, wouldn't let it go. Over time, I mastered doing my hair in minutes, and my makeup followed almost on autopilot, but dressing for work was still a marathon. Business attire meant pantyhose, a skirt or suit, and a blouse or dress with a hem barely an inch above my knees. Getting ready now took 3 times as long as it had BC before Haley. Twice more, I got flowers. No card, no clue. Dad teased me relentlessly. Melissa grilled me for details I didn't have. Still, the mystery stirred something I hadn't expected, an openness to the idea of a boyfriend. For a 16-year-old girl, that wasn't so strange. All I had to do was forget I'd ever been a boy. And honestly, when I looked in the mirror, that wasn't hard. One night at the club, Tyler casually let slip that Jake was furious at home, licking her wounds and nursing her failure to discredit me. Her father's push to go after Chad had been shut down by the police Good Samaritan laws, they said. Tyler also mentioned, almost offhand, that Chad thought I was just about the prettiest girl she'd ever seen. That caught me off guard. Chad quiet, hulking, shy. Chad wasn't the type to toss out compliments, let alone send flowers. If she had been the one, it would mean something big for her. I remembered the night she'd laid Jake out cold, without breaking a sweat. No bluster, no shouting, just a single decisive blow. When Chad got mad, it was like a force of nature. By then, I'd been living as Haley for over a month, and my perspective on men and life had shifted. Melissa had warned me this crossroads would come. I'd have to decide whether I was truly a girl or just a boy in a dress. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped asking the question. That Saturday, Brittany, Megan, and I were back at the club when Chad walked in with Ryan and Ryan's sister, Jennifer. They sat across the room, and immediately Brittany and Megan were nudging me. "She saved your bacon," Megan hissed. "The least you can do is thank her. Get over there." Dad's voice echoed in my head. "Don't chase a guy, let her come to you." Brittany and Megan were telling me the opposite. Before I could decide, Tyler appeared, took my hand, and pulled me to my feet. "Go talk to her," she said simply, pointing to Chad. Suddenly, the whole room seemed to be watching. My legs carried me forward, my hands clasped in front of me, like I was trying to hold myself together. The strobe lights flashed across my face, betraying the fear in my eyes. I reached the table, looking only at Chad. Ryan rose without a word, took Jennifer's hand, and left. Chad stared at me, wide-eyed, silent, like a boy caught off guard. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I slid into the seat beside her. "Thanks," I said quietly, "for helping me when Jake's a fool," she said. All I did was make her stop. "Oh, no," I shook my head. "You did more than that, Connor. You saved me from an animal, and I want to thank you." Then, before I knew it, I leaned in and kissed her lightly, on the lips. "Thank you, Connor." For a moment, nothing. Then her hand came to rest over mine, her fingers curling until she held it fully. Her smile unfolded, slow but sure, and for the first time, I heard her laugh. The sound softened her sighs, made her less imposing. We'd both worked so hard just to reach that moment, and it felt worth every step. I'd never seen Connor as anything more than the quiet, strong guy in our group, but now something shifted. Not a crush exactly, not yet, but the beginnings of a connection. A friend, yes, but also a man who saw me as a woman. And I realized, for the first time, how much power there was in that. She and I were alike in ways we didn't yet understand. I wasn't quite as shy, but I carried a secret that had always kept me a step removed from everyone else. Connor's distance came from pure shyness, polite, dependable, the kind of guy who would help anyone in need without a second thought. Somehow, I knew we could draw each other out. The thought came like a light switching on, sudden, illuminating, and the answer was right there in front of me. But I also knew it would be up to me to lead her there, not as a lover, but as the closest friend she'd ever had. Let's dance, Boo Connor. I can't. I don't. Not very well anyway, but thanks. Nope, wrong answer. I want to dance, and I want you as my partner. Come on, don't let me down now. I took her hand before she could refuse again. The music shifted to something slow, so I moved close, letting her arms find their place around me. She was a full head taller, and when I rested my head against her chest, it felt natural safe. Her strength, her energy, her quiet masculinity wrapped around me like a shield. I could hear her heartbeat, nearly as quick as my own, and when she relaxed, her arms drew me in tighter. For the first time, I felt completely feminine. Back at the table, I wanted to ask her about the flowers, but didn't want to embarrass her. I just let her hold my hand. When it was time to leave, she walked me to my car without a kiss or even a hug, something that left me a little disappointed. And, surprisingly, wondering if I'd done something wrong. Brittany and Megan swore I had her wrapped around my little finger. I wasn't so sure. Connor never hinted at wanting more than friendship, but maybe they were right. That night, for the first time in my life, I dreamed about myself and a boy, and I wasn't the least bit troubled by it. The next morning, I went to the mall and bought a silky black nightgown with a matching robe, plus a soft pink baby doll set. By the time I woke up, I'd crossed that invisible chasm between who I had been and who I was now. I reveled in the certainty. I was a woman. There was no doubt left. That night, I joined Dad at a dinner party not as the little girl she'd expected, but as a confident young woman in my newest dress. A sleeveless black sheath with a low neckline and a short hem. A push-up bra gave me just enough daring, and black patent heels finished the look. My hair was in a French twist, my nails painted a muted purple. I looked 25, and the look on Dad's face told me she knew it. As school approached, Connor finally called. After a moment of stammering, she asked me out. I said yes instantly. We saw a movie, grabbed burgers, and when she pulled up to my house, I leaned over and kissed her twice before she took me in her arms and kissed me back. It was the start of something neither of us had planned, but both of us needed. Meeting her parents sealed it. Her father, just as large as Connor, was warm and gentle, a big teddy bear. Her mother was thrilled her son had found someone and made me feel welcome instantly. By the time school started, Connor and I were seeing each other regularly. Brittany grinned whenever she caught sight of us, and Dad had fully settled into seeing me as her daughter. It wasn't a strange arrangement, looking back. Dad loved me. Connor broke free from her shell, and I found the strength to stand in my own truth. When I enrolled, I did so as Haley. Not a single word was spoken against it. I still visited Tiffany occasionally, even had a fresh set of pieces made just in case. But by then, I knew I didn't need them to be a woman. It was a state of mind, and mine was unshakable. That unspoken love from Dad, from my friends, and from Connor shaped me into the woman I am today. And I wouldn't trade a single step of the journey. It was worth every moment.